everybody. Welcome to 372 Pages. We'll never get back. This is Connor, joined by Mike, as always. Mike, we are doing a new book soon, and it's a book that I think we both knew was by two of our favorite authors and favorite book we've covered on this podcast, but not until reviewing this did I realize how much I really liked Antigua, the Land of Fairies, Wizards, Dragons, Mini-Wads, and Larry, etc.
Yeah, you quickly, in this business, you flush stuff out of your RAM and you don't think about it again because you're on to the next thing. Mm-hmm. And so, yeah, it was a warm bath to get back into the prose of Larry and Denise, which I just did briefly. It's like, wow, we read that, all of it, every word. I guess we did.
Yeah, as I recall, this was a pretty, a hefty word count.
Yes.
Many times padded, some might say, based on some of these examples that listeners sent to us. But it had so much going on. I think our highest character count, beating even the Quilters. And as someone pointed out, even just acts past where the book actually ended. It just kept going. So it made me so excited to see what their other vision was, just because this was so unique. And as one person said, it contained stuff that if you were writing a bad book intentionally, it would never occur to you to do some of this stuff. So the fact that there's a whole other world out there is so exciting to me.
And remember, as I was reading it again, okay, remember her voice yelling at me, this was for kids, so stop. Yep, kids love this kind of prose. Of course, yes, kids riveted.
Yes, Denise was the original, turn off your brain. The Star Wars prequels are for kids. So that gives you a license to just make them as terrible as possible.
Yes.
But this is just, we asked all the people on Patreon for their favorite memories of the Antigua as we approach the start of Archaeologists. And we're just going to review some of those now, because I think it's important to refresh ourselves with some of the tropes and just with some of the things that might come up again. And the first thing, I'll share my favorite. This was my favorite thing in the book that I remembered. And it was... I just remember it was pretty early on, and I was so taken with it that I had to put it down, laughing so hard, and go tell Lauren about it. I'm just going to read the passage. The three wizards, Anechka, Leonido, and Stepan, spread out. Each of them pointed their magic wands in front of them and got ready for what was about to happen. Suddenly, small flying dragons about the size of large birds appeared in the air before them. There were hideous-looking creatures running toward them, and there were evil pixies ready to throw stones at them as they flew through the air, and several Komodo dragons were advancing towards them.
You were quite taken by that.
It's just, they have dragons. Why do you need to... Later on, I read about, what a Komodo dragon does to you. I saw, here's a piece of, raw beef that a Komodo dragon bit, and, the toxins that get into it, the necrosis that, the venom injects into it is pretty nasty stuff. However, I'm not sure they're really aware of that. But when I was searching for this passage in the text of Antigua, it turned up a couple different Komodos. And so one of them was from the preview of Archaeologists, which says the teenagers steal a map and are able to find the lost civilization, which is ruled by a king, queen, and a princess. The land of the Moepeck has all kind of hidden dangers, including dinosaurs, giant Komodo dragons, warriors, assassins, and more. So,
oh wow, you're going to be in heaven.
We have that to look forward to.
Giant Komodo dragons.
A fixation.
I saw a thing. Yeah, so I'm trying to think, what would the analog be? You invent a magical world of, in Tolkien's Oliphants, where the elephants are 10 times the size of an elephant, and then there were zebras as well. Okay, seems like kind of an afterthought, but sure, there's zebras.
Yeah, I don't know. It's if there was mystical panda gods or something, and then also some red pandas, sort of just looking adorable and drinking out of a bottle or something.
Yeah, there were sloths as well. They don't really do much. Kind of cute when they're young, kind of weird when they're old.
So that was my favorite, but some other listeners, commented on some of their favorite stuff. This was from Steve. He said the repeated beat of throwing people into trees is an Ellis all-timer.
I absolutely love this. This is the one. Can I give a sample?
Yes, please. Yes.
The sorceress used the powers of her mighty wand to push the wizard Vlandorft into a tree. She pointed her magic wand at him, and suddenly a force powerful enough to lift him up off the ground and force him right into the tree. He moaned as his body was thrown into the tree. He wasn't hurt badly enough to stop him, though. He got up and pointed his magic wand at the evil sorceress Gwendevier.
Yeah.
That's what we decided,
Yes.
I guess. A force came out of the magic wand that was powerful enough to force the sorceress Gwendevier into another tree. She was lifted into the air and forced right into the tree. She fell to the ground and moaned in agony. He then used his magic wand to push the sorceress into a second tree. I'll skip this. The great wizard Vlandorf used his wand to flip the sorceress around and around in the air, and then forced her into the second tree.
It's perfection.
Oh, my God.
And
For
again,
kids. It's for kids.
Yeah, sorry. Kids like forcing people into trees repeatedly.
With forces that come from their force.
That one is like, I don't know, sometimes a director, I think, in Battlefield Earth, they just cut to a slightly different angle of the same action happening of a guy like running through a pane of glass or something. It's like a 70s kind of gritty action thing is what they were going for there, I think.
Oh, yeah, the show the same action 3 times,
yes.
Right, from different angles.
Yeah, forcing into a tree. Yeah. This is from a couple different people. Harris said the phone book length of new names whom we will never revisit on every other page. Levi Sam Juno said all the lists and titles of characters repeated every time they are reintroduced because the targeted teenage readers evidently have the attention span of an overtired toddler. And Rick said characters introducing themselves after being introduced by others. And that's, I didn't remember that, but that would be, it was usually, I forget what the magic number, I feel like there was always 7 of something. Like there were 7 princesses, 7 fairies, 7 knights. They would introduce them and then they would. Yeah.
Yeah, they go to a new kingdom, and then, like, he was surrounded by his knight. They were, and then the list.
Or like the Wizard's Apprentices, they have them. Or there's octopuses, and there's 7 octopuses. There's 7 mermen, and then 7 mermaids.
Yes.
And I just was looking for examples of this. This was one that was just very funny. This is in the middle of introducing. They introduce the 7 knights, and then they tell you all about the 7 knights, and then they're never mentioned again. There was the strong knight Sir Barrington, who some thought had the strength of 5 men. Some like some are saying, or like on Twitter, they're being like these. Some are saying these awful things about the cast of the new Star Wars movie, and it's one guy. But
yeah, it's that's always a dodge when you start an introduction with someone. Now, some would say you're a racist.
Yes.
I don't think. Okay, they're my enemies. Say that.
That's right. He was able to lift over 600 pounds of weight all by himself. He was very strong. He wasn't born that way. He just worked out a lot with weights to build his muscles up and tone his body.
Wow.
That's to
the
me.
Komodo dragon was looking on at all of his weight sessions.
Yeah,
push
spotting
that
him
up there, buddy.
Yeah, come on. You never get to the strength of 6 men if it's this way.
We have a comment here from, I think it's Balaji. Forgive me if I'm pronouncing that wrong.
I think that's
the introduction of the actual factual talking gorillas after being teased in real and fanfic may be one of the greatest, most hilarious things I've ever encountered in fiction ever. That is high praise. Do you want to read that one?
Sure. Then she saw a gorilla sitting in one of the trees eating a banana. The gorilla's name was Gordle. Rebecca had seen a gorilla in a zoo in England before, but she never actually had seen one this close before. She was really frightened. She didn't know if the gorilla was going to jump down from the tree and attack her. She started to just slowly back up. The talking gorilla yelled, "Hey, you human girl! Where are you headed?"
Just putting her at ease.
Yes.
Never seen. I'm really frightened. Hey, human girl! There, that's better.
That was, I think, a landmark real or fanfic moment where we realized that like all rules were off for this book because there was a talking gorilla named Gordle in a tree eating bananas, and it could not be possible. And it turned out they got a whole, 3/4 of the way through their book, briefly became major characters. And this was another one because Gordle, he went on to meet his family after he fought with the Nasty Fox, you'll recall.
The Nasty Fox, yes.
Static Warp said that Glendra Gorilla was a treasure, and so I had to look up that. I think I don't remember who else said it, but someone said that Gordle, Glendra, and their baby gorilla Bubo, who drinks cow's milk, are possibly my favorite 372 characters ever. My quintessential example of the kind of thing you can't replicate if you're trying to write an intentionally bad book. And I found that sentence, which I had marked with 17 exclamation points, and possibly my favorite sentence we've ever covered on the book. Glendra Gorilla grabbed a bottle of cow's milk and gave it to her baby gorilla Bubo. Bubo started sucking on the bottle right away. And this is when she met the main girl. Glendra had Bubo Gorilla in her arms. She looked at Rebecca and said non-caringly, "Oh, it's a little human girl." So you'd forgotten about those little things, just inventing adverbs that no one else has ever used.
We also, didn't we start to rack up, because she'll mention things like cow's milk. So, okay, gorillas keep cows, I guess, in this land.
Right.
And have milking machines and things, though we didn't meet cows, right?
Oh, au contraire. There was that comes up later. There was a cow.
A cow?
I'll find it right now, yeah.
Did it talk?
Yes. Well, here we go. This is from Brian.
Please enjoy my milk? What does the cow say?
One of the cows said, quote, "Moo!" And he said, "It's the quote marks that did it for me. That's the Ellis's letting you know they aren't summarizing or paraphrasing. They are transcribing the cow's utterance verbatim." Utterance? Giving you the kind of solid scholarship that you've come to expect from them.
Okay, there we go. One of the cows. I forget where the cows are then.
Yeah. I mean, the book is so jam-packed full of details, it's hard to imagine. It's hard to remember.
I saw once, speaking of cows, though, speaking of Komodo dragons and cows, there was some sort of I don't know, large, what do you call them, a wildebeest or something? I don't know what it is, that a Komodo dragon had bitten, like 3 days before. And then they just kind of hang out and they watch it as it, stumbles into a pool and drowns itself, and then the Komodo dragons come and start eating it in the muck, just mud all over. They're not a very cool animal. That's pretty lame. Here's a bite on your leg. Oh, that kind of hurts. Wow, that's getting necrotic. Yeah. I better crawl into a pool of water and drown myself. 4 days later.
Meanwhile, the evil dragon Vorultrar incinerates an entire village in 30 seconds.
Oh. So hopefully that comes up in that book. Komodo dragon killing the cow that said moo.
This is from Lindsay, who said, this was another one that I think was in real or fanfic that was that cannot possibly be real. She said, probably that random segment where the evil sorceress's cat walked into the kitchen and suddenly recreated a Tom and Jerry cartoon with a mouse in a frying pan. No rhyme or reason to it, just random madness ripped straight from Saturday morning cartoons. Do you want to share that passage?
Sure. The mouse was just about to run into his hole in the wall when the cat jumped right in front of the hole. The sorceress's cat hissed angrily at the mouse and reached her claw up to try and trap the mouse. The mouse was too fast for the cat. The mouse ran all over the kitchen. The cat ran right after him. I'll stop that. Sorry. The mouse ran up onto the counter, over the sink, and over the kitchen cabinets. The mouse grabbed a frying pan and then hit the sorceress's cat upside her head. The cat became very dizzy and then passed out on the floor. The exclamation points are implied here, of course.
Sure.
The mouse was able to escape and ran back over to the piece of cheese. The mouse carried the cheese back to his hole in the wall. The evil sorceress Guinevere walked into the kitchen and saw her pet cat stretched out on the floor. The sorceress stared at her cat for a few seconds and then just shook her head. She said out loud to herself, "Stupid cat." I forgot the relationship between the cat and Guinevere.
Yeah, this cat was always saying things sarcastically, I believe.
Yes.
And they mentioned cheese too. So the dairy industry is going strong here, but they don't specify that it's cow's milk cheese. So we have to infer that it must be goat or sheep.
Komodo dragons.
Yeah. Oh, God. They learned to milk Komodo dragons. That's a Larry innovation for sure.
Yes.
Speaking of, Wyatt said, I quite enjoyed the interpretation of Larry as a Margaritaville guy coming home red-faced and badgering Denise. Larry might have had a rough go of it in the past month. He might have had tickets to a concert that's not happening anymore after Jimmy Buffett passed.
Yeah, what a month for him. Jimmy Buffett, who I learned, the weird times you turn on the radio and they were talking about, we lost Jimmy Buffett. I'm like, okay, it's time to switch the channel. And I go, his dear friend Paul McCartney, who was in his last hours, was there with Jimmy.
Wow.
Paul McCartney? What? They were good friends. And Paul did his last 2 records or something. His posthumous releases are Sir Paul and Jimmy Buffett.
They recorded together, or they just worked in their studio?
They recorded together.
Wow.
I had no idea. So anyway, that was Larry. He's got some consolation in Sir Paul, I guess.
I mean, at some point in time, Paul's just when your circle is limited to people as rich as you, and that circle, to your utter befuddlement, includes Jimmy Buffett now.
Yes.
That's.
I'd like to do a tribute. Living on sponge cake. Isn't that right, mate?
Yeah. Get out of my jet, Paul. Earn another billion and we can talk. Here's Mark's comment. He says, wasn't there a goblin named Gorzarf or something who got hit in the ass or landed on his ass several times? He definitely got thrown into a tree. That guy was the best. I looked him up. He does come up a lot. There was a lot of Gozarf. I don't think his ass came up. That's not for teens.
Certainly not the word, right?
No, yeah, it can't be. But he was the head goblin who was in charge of all the orcs. And then that's not to be confused with, you remember this? There was a head unicorn of the centaurs.
Yes.
The centaurs had a unicorn boss.
Yes.
But this was just some of the pros related to Gorzarf. I think we did a whole bit about a used car salesman talking to him because he's, the trolls understand, Gozarf. They will listen to you. Do you understand me, Gozarf? If you fail me, Gozarf, I will personally place your head on a platter and feed it to my alligators. Am I making myself clear, Gozarf? Now, Mike, what do I have to do to get you into a new car? Do you want the undercoating package, Mike? I really recommend it, Mike.
Please let go of my elbow. That is not making you endearing to me. Hey, I'll tell you what. You get this baby, Gozarf, and you're going to get the ladies like crazy. You know what I'm saying?
Oh, really? The ladies are into a Chevy Suburban?
Oh, look at that one over there. She's looking at you.
Gozarf. I don't know. It's a little outside my price range. I'm only...
Have a seat in there, Gozarf. Let's fold your hat down and then set you in that car. Oh, you look great.
I could fit a lot of orcs in here. They do need to be taken a lot of places, but
let's take this out on the open road there. Your curly shoes might have trouble with the brakes, but
yeah, I can't brake. Komodo dragon in the road. Get the jaws of life, Gozarf.
It just reminded me, this is apropos of nothing, the evil Gwendevier, didn't she keep moving kingdoms? She had to move a lot or something.
Yeah, didn't she went to the northern kingdom?
Went farther up north.
I think someone mentioned that her family became a major part of it in the final third. She wasn't speaking to her nephew or something.
Right. Okay.
Yeah, because I think the dragons kept wiping things out, so she kept getting pushed northward.
John has this to say. I'll just move along here. This little snippet is everything I loved about Antigua rolled into one. And I assume this is where this starts. The head knights of King Arthur's army led King Arthur, King Alexander. I couldn't do it even after all this time. King Alexandrio, King Thomason, I remember that, Queen Lidriana, Queen Gwenda, Queen Eleanor Dora, the great wizards, the apprentice wizards, the princesses, Timothy and his parents, several warrior centaurs, several mini-wads, several gnomes and elves, and all the king's advisors to the royal conference chamber. Over 100 knights from all 3 kingdoms followed behind them. Once they reached the royal conference chamber, the kings, queens, princesses sat on thrones in front of the glass table Isadora.
Whew.
What? Picture that, everyone. Just get that in your mind's eye. It's easy, right?
It's a Hieronymus Bosch painting or something. Or Where's
Yes,
Waldo?
indeed.
Like, can you spot Queen Gwyndeath? And then, there was a talking glass table, of course. Yeah, and there was a King Thomason, and someone mentioned that their favorite part of the book was the cameo by Sean Thomason. So was there a Sean and a King Thomason? I think that happened.
There was several different people with the same names.
He was like a barrel maker or something.
Yes. Yeah, there was a fight, right? He
Yes,
walked up to them and started a fight.
Maybe he did get knocked on his ass or something.
Yeah, could be.
Well, so I just wonder how this is going to translate to the teen archaeologists. I mean, I guess they're going to the land of the Moepeck, so there's all going to be all sorts. That must be a fantasy realm or something.
Yeah, what do they do? Like fall through a crust in the earth or something, and then they're in Moepeck?
I guess we'll find out.
Right.
And will they have crazy names? I mean, the teens. Well, we'll have to find out. We'll have to read. But speaking of, this was Tyler's favorite part. He said, I loved Timothy, where a character gets no introduction, but is just in the scene with barely any acknowledgments. So I went and found the very first appearance of Timothy. It was the great wizard Vlandorf said, follow me, my lord. King Arlex Hendrio held his wife's hand and followed after the wizard Vlandorf. Princess Alexandra, Timothy, and the 3 wizard apprentices laughed as they ran off ahead of the king and queen. So.
Was Timothy the one that had the doomed love?
Yeah, he was the friend zone guy.
He was friend zoned. Yes.
Yeah. Oh, I love that we are friends, Timothy. As she ran off to hit on the 3 wizard apprentices.
Yeah, we could not be more friends than we are.
The next one is from James, who, this is, I guess, a little spoiler, but he said, I just wanted characters to either yell out or say sarcastically, and then 10 pages in, and I already got both. Right. So that and Komodo dragons means that, it's not like they changed a bunch up between these books. I don't remember which is first and which is second. We'll have to find that out. This
is the phenomenon we have seen with probably more, but at least 2 of our authors, with Andy Weir and what's his ass, Ernest Cline, where they're not going to suddenly write a good book. I mean, this is just, I don't see Larry and Denise suddenly becoming Faulkner in this.
Yeah.
I just don't see that happening, but who knows?
Man. If there's just like one chapter in the book that was like, written from someone else's perspective, and they were able to just like, make you weep with the prose and stuff. Like if it was told from the story of the point of view of Timothy, like his own first person thing, and it was him weeping for his unrequited love.
Yeah, just a like Dostoevsky interior, just knowing a person like so much just from every little detail, and this is how they think and how they see the world. Oh, that'd be great.
Yeah. Then it goes back to the Goblin King of the Orcs, Gozarf, was trying to ride a spider whose name was Spider Ramano. This was from Triss. They said the evil sorceress Gwendevier's family getting an offhand mention early on, and then it becoming a major plot point in the final section where the story just keeps going and going despite the main plot being resolved. I think the main plot was defeating the dragon, who also, remember, the dragon also had a hologram version of itself?
That could accomplish the exact same thing.
And then a user named Spinoza's Dog said, I think what stuck most in my mind was how the book, having completed its story arc, then started in a completely different one that was clearly meant to be a sequel, got about a third of the way in, and ended. I don't really remember that, but it's incredible.
Mike says, the overly extensive lists that still hedge at the end. The forest had trees and grass and rabbits and squirrels and bushes and pine cones and spiders and frogs and many other things.
Oh, a lot of things.
Onions. Oh, a lot of things.
Taylor said that, I forget his name, but one night was known for, quote, reading a lot of articles.
Yes.
I found that mention. It was the Knight Sir Vincent was an intellectual who enjoyed reading old books and articles. I don't remember if we got letters about that, be like, articles have existed since 300 BC. There's articles on papyrus. Maybe there will be articles in the Kingdom of the Moepeck. The cover of the book makes you think it's a sort of Egyptian-esque land.
Yeah, and weren't there were traits for each knight, right? But then it was kind of like running out of ideas, and Sir whatever had a a mustache.
Yes.
He enjoyed having a mustache.
Yeah. He at one time had tea, so they called him Sir T.
Cormius says, the end of the race when the wizard calmed the loser down by telling him it's not a competition, despite it being the most direct and obvious form of competition imaginable. And here's the quote. The crowd yelled out, William, William, William. Jonathan yelled out, I flew just as fast and just as far as William did. Why are all of you cheering him? What about me? The wizard Vlandorf said, Young Jonathan, this is not a competition.
If you'll recall, it was like a scavenger hunt. They rode their brooms.
Yes.
I think they stood on their brooms, though, and like were just doing this huge race through the entire kingdom.
Yes.
Oh, perfect. Jackal651 said, the ever-expanding roster of named characters. I can imagine Connor reading each name followed by a dog bark. Well, we sure as hell are not doing that again. You get that once.
How long did that take?
45 minutes to read all the names. I mean, not in real time.
That was just what it ended up as.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Just it took over the span of a day. I would take a break. And Jay said, this is, of course, I mean, where this all stemmed from was the legendary bonus reel or fanfic where Mike got 14 of 15.
Yes.
That was recapped by Taylor's legendary video as well. I mean, that's, talk about if we hadn't had for that, I don't know what your stats would be, but that's like, that's like a Pete Rose's 400 season or something.
Yeah, that was just freakish.
I guess Ted Williams' Pete Rose never did that. Jay also said, plus, this is the only book that I fooled Mike with fan fiction in. I had fun making a map for the book, too, though other people's were better. So I had forgotten people tried to recreate fantasy maps of the land of Antigua. I hope Moepeck is expansive enough that it warrants.
Oh, I'm rubbing my hands in anticipation.
Alex also said Mike's 14 out of 15 fanfic run was amazing, but from the book itself, I have to say it's the epic clash between Gordle the Gorilla and the Nasty Fox. Someone else said that I was disproportionately not prepared for how little the Nasty Fox was actually into it, depending on how much we talked about it and how outsized it was in the memory. That happens a lot with us, I feel like. We go back and revisit something, and something we've built up in our heads is like very offhand and unmemorable.
Oh, that happens constantly when there's some, moment from a movie or something that you just start doing an impression of, and then someone does an even more pointed impression of till you think that that's the real thing. Then you see it in the movie. It's like, oh, he just says it like a normal line.
Like that thing we just read, the onions.
Yes. I mean, it's there. It's there.
Yeah.
It's just subtle. Patricia says, wrong real words, like the wizard's quenched lips, or not tampering with the prophecy. And here's the quote. The wizard Vlandorf said, yes, Brandon, please give me a sip of water. My lips are quenched.
That's incredible. I had forgotten about that, too. I don't remember what tampering with the prophecy was, but needing quenching and then using that as the word in the exact opposite way it's intended is another pure Ellisism.
Especially when Brandon is part of the scene. I forgot about it.
Yeah, he was one of the wizard's apprentices, I think.
Yes,
he was involved in the race with Jonathan and all of them.
Yeah.
Oh, man. Well, I mean, if that doesn't make you excited to dive into the Teen Archeologists in the Land of the Moepeck Volume 1, I don't know what would.
I'm extremely excited. Let's get this thing going.
Yeah, so we're reading the first two chapters. It seems that a lot of people have been able to find the book, which is good, because a lot of people have already been writing in their dumb sentences and fanfic and stuff like that. So send that, and we'll dive in as soon as we can.
Yep, looking forward to it.
All right, thanks, everybody.